Hello, I'm Shiloh, and today I would like to share with you a chapter from my first novel, The Magician. So, get comfortable, take my hand, and together, let's enter Jeanne's magical garden, where her mystical wisdom will take us on a blessed journey. The Grimoire of Terrance, Jeanne's Book of Secrets. On a summer solstice morning, a few weeks before my 11th birthday, I celebrated my graduation in Jeanne's garden. She had specifically chosen June 21st, the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, as the most auspicious date for the occasion. This very special day, infused with the purest light from Source, was the day that held the most favorable energies, and a very good omen for my celebration. I had kept my achievements a complete secret from everyone, but I had dreamt of this moment incessantly. Because of her rapidly declining health, Jeanne had tirelessly increased the complexity of our lessons and rituals during the past year. After long weeks of assiduous work, I was ready. On this fateful day, I would become an initiate. I would be anointed and welcomed as the youngest member of the Order of Terrance. I was ready to join the ranks of a new family, and with the words of a sacred covenant, I would pronounce my oath to the Order. Like many before me, upholding the divine pledge, I would carry on the quest that Jeanne and her ancestors had pursued before me. Today, I would become Shiloh Faustine Terrance, the Seeker of the Sacred, my exact title within the order, and a name chosen by Jeanne herself. It was both a custom, even a high privilege for a mentor presenting their initiate to select a name from within the hierarchy of the order. Lying in bed awake for hours before the ceremony, I was patiently waiting for the first sliver of light to pierce through the slats of my wooden shutters. Again and again, I recited my oath mentally. But, unable to wait another second, I reached for my white cotton dress, a simple little tunic handmade by Jeanne for the occasion. In the partial obscurity of my room, I drew toward me the neatly folded garment I had placed at the foot of my bed the night before. Gently, I pulled the soft white cotton over my bare skin. As the cloth caressed my face, the sweet smell of pink roses and gardenias reminded me of Jeanne. Tiptoeing my way to the front door, careful not to disturb my family, I left the comfort of my home, ready to greet my destiny. As I had done many times for the past 6 years, I walked along the sinuous, narrow trail carved through the thick underbrush separating my home from Jeanne's trailer. Holding the hem of my gown in one hand, I hurried along the muddy path. At the edge of the clearing, before crossing the tall grasses of the meadow, I stopped. There, choosing the sturdiest old stump I could find, I stepped up and surveyed my kingdom coming to life. I felt a mysterious love for this land. From my perch, I observed the receding night shadows bowing out reverently to the first rays of the sun. Before them, the nascent lights of the rising sun gradually revived the dark waters of the mill pond. This small, muddy water hole, excavated by my uncle for his livestock so long ago, had magically transformed over the years into a sea of ever-advancing cattails undulating under the sun. Never once on my way to Jeanne had I failed to stop and frolic there, lost in my reveries. It was my enchanted sanctuary, where tadpoles and minnows played hide-and-seek with me amongst the tall grasses, a place where, sinking my toes in the gray, murky clay, felt heavenly. It was my oasis, where translucent dragonflies skipped and swayed in my hair and crowned me with their ephemeral beauty. I closed my eyes and breathed in the familiar scent of my motherland. I ran my fingers through my wild, messy hair and readjusted the little cotton strap of my dress over my shoulders. Looking down at my feet, I smiled, knowing that Jeanne, who never left her house without perfectly polished shoes, would immediately notice the small grass pips sticking all over my wet sandals. But it was too late anyway. Already, thin brown lines resembling little crescent moons were slowly appearing on the soaked toile of my espadrilles. Without a care, I followed the muffled echoes of cowbells chiming in a smooth timber from the high pastures. Jeanne's modest roulotte, with its aged wooden shutters and overflowing flower boxes, sat undisturbed, neatly wedged between heaven and earth. Like a fledgling about to take his first flight, I held my dress with both hands as high as possible over my knees. I jumped off the mossy stump and rushed madly through the tall grasses, resolute to race against the wind until reaching Jeanne's front door. "Shiloh, come on in, honey. The door is open," I heard faintly as I flew in one gusty jump over the 3 shaking wooden steps leading to the front door. Standing in her bedroom doorway, still in her robe, Jeanne swiftly turned, startled as I barged through the front door. I stood at the threshold, glistening with sweat and exultation. She observed me silently for an instant, then finally a soft, "Oh, Shiloh," issued her lips, and she laughed out loud. A little surprised by her reaction, I glanced over my shoulder, worried about my appearance and hoping my dress wasn't too badly soiled or wrinkled. I nervously swept the front and side of the fabric with the palms of my hands. Satisfied now with my grooming, I stood straighter, waiting for her reassurance. "Shiloh, look at you, child. You are magnificent. But did you run like mad the whole way? Your cheeks are shiny and red like 2 little crab apples. We still have some work to do with those flying lessons, I see." Relieved by the tone of her voice, I smiled and let out a long-held breath. With the sweetest smile, she welcomed me in her arms. Come to me now. I'm so happy. Look at this. You're almost as tall as me. God, how is this possible? Where did the time go? Where did it all go?" Against my chest, her frail body felt warm but fragile. Aware of her struggle, I had watched her for months lead a stoic, courageous fight. Instinctively, I had taken over all the heavy chores around her house. When I sensed the declining strength in her step, even in her laughter, I became stronger. I worked harder. And when I felt discouraged, sad, and mad, observing the shimmering colors of her life force fading slowly, I reminded myself how grateful I was for each moment spent with her. We often talked about our feelings, the emotions, and the deep fears that surface when facing the inevitable. We both knew what was to come. I had pushed myself harder than ever, and with high marks, I had passed all the rigorous requirements of the Orders Council. My graduation was the last step to make my status official. Jeanne could finally rest now. The oath she had taken some 50 years ago with her mentor and upheld as her life's mission had been fulfilled. Beaming with joy and pride, she was radiant, light on her feet, almost exuberant today. In a soft, tender gesture, I kissed her forehead. "Jeanne, I'm ready to be the next seeker," I murmured softly in her ear. Without a word, she nodded back with a smile and disappeared into her bedroom. She returned a moment later holding her immaculate white ceremonial gown draped over her arm. Shiloh, I never hoped of wearing the high priestess robe again. What an honor. To honor you, she murmured, holding the cloth to her face. She breathed in slowly and caressed the soft crest of her cheek with the pristine fabric. She closed her eyes. I watched her searching, reawakening in her heart the faded memories of a time long gone. Jeanne belonged to a dying tribe, a secret group made only of a few individuals who had pledged their existences to the pursuit and preservation of an ancient philosophy, a sacred knowledge. Jeanne, am I the last initiate? Are there others like me? I asked, incapable of hiding the sadness in my heart. I stroked a corner of the silky cloth she still held up to her face, but beaming with joy, she exclaimed, "Yes, you are my angel, one of the very few left, and my greatest joy. I know that it takes great courage to be different, Shiloh. I knew when I first laid eyes on you. Besides, I didn't keep this beautiful garb all these years, only as a buffet for the moths." She laughed mockingly. "I guess we'll see if they got into it." She raised her eyebrows, and determined to ignore my sad tone, she closed the bathroom door behind her. I stood by pensively. Glancing into her room, laid open on her bed, I recognized the wooden trunk used to store her ceremonial garments. I entered the room and peered inside. Gently, I picked up the thin golden snake belt tightly coiled up in a purple handkerchief. I examined the two small garnet eyes mounted on each side of the serpent's head that formed the clasp of the belt, then placed it back on top of Jeanne's purple cloak. It was still folded and carefully interlaced with thin, yellowing silk papers and pale blue lavender stems. Interrupting my quiet reflection, Jeanne called me from the bathroom. "Shiloh, while I'm getting ready, could you make us some chamomile tea? Then nothing will stop us. I'll be done shortly." I walked into the kitchen and filled up the old kettle. I chose the two prettiest porcelain teacups with their matching saucers from the cupboard and sat reflectively at the kitchen table. Mentally, I rehearsed each meticulously choreographed stage of my ceremony one more time. I knew my oath and prayers by heart. "I'm ready," I kept repeating to myself. The high-pitched whistle coming from the kettle abruptly stopped my mental preparations. As I sat down at the table with the hot teapot, Jeanne appeared in a doorframe, clothed in her robe of light. "What do you think?" she asked, lifting her chin up to offer me her best profile. "Not too shabby for an old maid, don't you think?" "Oh, Jeanne, you look absolutely beautiful. Like an angel," I uttered, mesmerized by her ceremonial aura. The long, immaculate dress, flowing gracefully to her feet, wrapped her in a halo of light. Embroidered with silky golden threads, the 3 cups of glory, the primeval symbol of the alchemist, adorned the center of her dress. Clasped around her waist, the little red-eye snake I held minutes ago smiled back at me. Crowning her long gray hair, a pearl and crystal tiara ordained with 12 stars gave her the magnetic charisma of a goddess. Like the high priestess of the tarot, her regal poise and sense of joy eased the melancholy I had felt. We sat at the small kitchen table. "Shiloh, I feel your sorrow, but it's all right." "All right, petite," she said, tapping my wrist. Inching closer towards me, she said in a softer tone, "Remember now, we both know that we are always exactly where we are supposed to be. Always. Shiloh, this moment was fated. You were destined for this service, with or without me. it was always your destiny. When you need assistance after my transition, you can reach out to the council. Know that it is in their best interest that you succeed on your quest. In truth, it is in the best interest of the whole. There are so few left of us. The teachings cannot remain hidden. I listened quietly. Shiloh, I have the utmost confidence in you. It's been ages since a soul as advanced as yours has appeared to join our cause. I listened to her words, but kept my eyes fixated on a delicate floral garland dancing on the rim of my teacup. Jeanne understood exactly what preoccupied me. With her index finger, she gently lifted my chin and looked into my eyes. I understand, Jeanne. Still, I'm so afraid of not being able to fulfill my promise to the Order without you. There is still so much I don't know. Not surprised by my answer, she smiled and reassured me. Don't you worry for a moment, little one. The council is well aware of your talents and our circumstances. I have kept detailed notes and instructions for your continuing education. Mr. Lucian is going to visit us later today. He's a Hierophant, a sage. He's a wonderful man, and he'll be there for you after I'm gone. Resigned to accept what I couldn't change, I nodded back at her. Now, this is your very special day. A glorious day indeed, and nothing should distract us from that. Besides, I know exactly what will chase away all those morose thoughts fretting your mind. Let's have tea and madeleines. I baked them yesterday for you, especially for this important occasion. Then we'll get you ready. You did, Jeanne? You know how much I love them, thank you. Greatly amused by the longing anticipation that had replaced my sad grin, Jeanne walked with a ceremonial pageantry over to her small pantry. She reached for a small crystal bowl and returned holding with both hands the most perfectly golden and plump cakes. This was my favorite treat, especially when she infused the silky batter with a delicate lavender fragrance. We laughed together, chasing away any remaining sadness. In unison, we each dipped a soft madeleine in a warm floral infusion and let the buttery crumbs melt away. She marveled. They are sublime, just divine, just like this day, Shiloh. My eyes closed. I smiled, committing this eternal moment to the deepest part of my memory. I say we have one more. No reason not to, Jeanne nudged. But we should keep some for later. I bet Mr. Lucian would like one of these as well. I agreed with a nod, but reached for second, smiling. Jeanne closely surveyed the golden stack and in turn selected another perfect madeleine. Silently, I observed her. I savored so profoundly all the silly moments I shared with her, and the looming shadows of her mortality were a constant reminder to be fully present, to stay fully anchored in moments like these. Satisfied now, we placed our cups and saucers on a white porcelain tile by the sink. Jeanne had explained to me that initiates are only permitted access to a single mentor for their training. Inexorably, in a few short months, I would have to rely solely on myself. But I realized the sadness I felt in my heart about losing her couldn't stop me from keeping my promise, because I believed with my whole being that I had been guided to this meadow and to Jeanne. In the same way, I would be guided on my sacred mission. Upon her death, I would be entrusted with her grimoire to safeguard, the same compendium she had studied all of her life, and from which she had derived all of her teachings. For eons, The order had followed this tradition rigorously, and only a mentor confident in her pupil's abilities had the power to transfer the Book of Secrets. Jeanne's Grimoire contained a compilation of essays of sacred rituals and magic spells, some of them written in Hebrew, Sanskrit, Sumerian, and other ancient languages. The order had gathered and zealously protected these ancient texts for centuries. Originally, the founders of this secret society were a group of nomadic seers composed of Arab mathematicians, French alchemists, Italian artists, and Greek philosophers, gypsies of all kinds. They were scattered all over Europe and the Middle East and always traveled hidden among the crowds. They were in search of an ancient secret technology. When the small band reached Tanis in Egypt, they had found a safe harbor. They had been divinely guided to the small city, the legend in the Grimoire explained, a place where, according to many ancient texts, the purest of knowledge had first appeared. Some translations from Arabic in Jeanne's Grimoire depicted their pilgrimage and revealed in detail their work under the high priests and priestesses of Egypt. Legend had it that 3 of the founders received the divine knowledge at the Well of Souls under the benevolence of priests protecting the Ark of Testimony and the Decalogue. Ready to join the ranks of my illustrious ancestors, I assisted Jeanne in the kitchen with her ceremonial cloak. The garment, lined with a smooth, shimmering gray silk, was heavy but amazingly soft under my fingertips. Following the steps of an ancestral ritual, I draped the cloak over my extended forearms and bowed my head respectfully in front of my mentor. Together, we blessed the robe. Venus, Urania, blessed, O thee, I intoned. With a silent nod, Jeanne acknowledged her readiness to accept the cloak. She was already in a deep meditative state and stood perfectly still in the middle of the room. I walked behind her, holding the garment open in my hands. The 2 gold ropes attached at the collar whipped around like 2 enchanted lions' tails and left in their path a shower of golden hues. I placed the purple robe over her shoulders and loosely tied the 2 cords around her neck. I carefully arranged the soft folds of the hood on each side of her shoulders and took 2 steps back, crossing my hands over my heart, waiting for her acceptance prayer. Focused on my breathing, I observed the vibrancy of the colors as they swirled around us. I watched the luminous energy emitted by the cloak shifting the subtle vibrations in the room. My senses alert, I welcomed and silently thanked the 2 familiar energies I felt softly gathering behind me. I had become accustomed to their presence. They had accompanied me since birth, and Jeanne called them the guardians of the blue ray. Their arrival seemed always to coincide with our ceremonial work. Jeanne opened with our acceptance prayer. I accept and welcome my calling by Themis, Mahat, and Nemesis. Humbled by your grace, divine source, I embrace the caduceus of Mercury. In one synchronized gesture, we dropped our hands to our sides and repeated in unison. From Melchizedek to the temple of the Sphinx, Alcahest, there is rejoicing in the heavens on this day. By the cloak from the temple of high priesthood, by the hierophant, by Isis, I am now nourished by spirit, my divine source. With eyes closed, I did what I had done for as long as I could remember. I pronounced the solemn words with Jeanne. Then I watched my beloved mentor standing array in her full power. By accepting the cloak, Jeanne would once again allow the divine energies to inhabit her frail body and channel the oracle she served. She radiated a commanding strength and stood tall, solemn and proud. She pulled the hood over her crown of stars, and extending her hand to me, she led me silently to the back of the garden where we had performed our sacred rituals since my childhood. Hidden away under the arch of an old wisteria tree was a dark granite altar. The wide chiseled stone, supported by 2 tall pillars of solid rock, was our sacred refuge. The foliage and the thick vines had over time wrapped themselves gracefully in wide space coils around the trunk of an old hazel tree that was shading us. Crowning the altar, purple clusters of fragrant flowers dangled like a garland, buzzing with life. At the middle of the cold mossy stone, a white linen cloth, embroidered in its center with a gold crescent moon, mirrored back at me its soft golden shadows. I had never seen our altar decorated in this manner, and I realized that Jeanne had meticulously prepared our sacred space in the early hours of the morning. I recognized the 3 golden cups of glory placed over the edge of the cloth. They crowned the golden moon perfectly and contained the sulfur, salt, and mercury used by our alchemist ancestors. Small flickering tea lights, arranged in a half-moon shape, danced around the elemental symbols in a gentle breeze. On each side of the altar, 2 large seashells released little volutes of white smoke around us. The bitter aromas of sage and incense cleansed the space and relaxed my mind. With a pitcher of fresh water, Jeanne filled the large copper bowl we used for divination. Later, she would use this special tool and give me predictions and advice. Using a small pipette, she carefully dropped 3 small drops of mercury in the water. The perfectly round, silvery marbles rolled frantically in a red polished bowl, finally settling at the bottom into a one large shimmery silver dome. Jeanne picked up her grimoire, laid open on the altar, held it against her chest, and turned towards me. Attentive to her cue, I knelt in front of her, prepared to recite with her our devotion to Hermes. As the master of ceremonies, she pointed her finger to the heavens and said, "To Hermes Trismegistus, the great, the thrice great, the master of masters, I present to you Shiloh Faustine Terrance, the seeker of the sacred, your initiate." Jeanne looked at me with the gentlest of smiles. I bowed my head in reverence and recited with her from the Kabbalion. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key, before whose touch all doors of the temple fly open. Jeanne placed on my head a ceremonial wreath she had prepared and blessed earlier. The fragile little crown, made with the foliage and tender stems of a young ash, was laced with little clusters of white lilac and perfumed my hair with its sweet fragrance. Still kneeling before her, only dressed in a simple white cloth, I felt the happiest I had ever been. I listened attentively to the prayer Jeanne offered to the elders. "Welcome your child into the temple of your heart. It is your aim to bestow. Once more, she returns before you, humbled. Guide her on her quest, Isis. Protect her, Metatron. Lead her steps, Saint Alphon. Adonai, Hel, Elohim. Protect the initiate, today and forever." Jeanne exhaled slowly and laid her grimoire back beside the golden moon on the altar. The moment I had waited for so long was finally about to take place. With a ceremonial gesture, Jeanne opened a small wooden chest placed at the foot of the altar. From it, she took my brilliant red cloak and held it before me. My heart racing in my chest, I stood up slowly. Despite my excitement, I breathed in deeply. Looking up into her eyes, I recited my oath calmly and with pride. I, Shiloh Faustine Terrance, pledge my life and the burning fire within the temple of my heart to continue my mentor's quest. It is my honor and duty to be known as the seeker of the sacred before you, Isis, my priestess. At the altar of the tree of knowledge is my tree of life, my divine source, where my sacred eternal soul resides, where I am purified to take my oath. I turned slightly, exuding a peaceful grace. Jeanne stood behind me. I continued. I am beneath no one, nor am I superior to anyone. I seek the sacred not for power or mastery, but for creation and expansion of the whole. I seek your divine truth and knowledge and devote my life to the quest. I live by the 7 principles of truth, our hermetic laws. From the temple of the Sphinx, following the book of cosmic laws and the corpus hermeticum, I follow the steps of my mentor. For the ones ready to hear, I'll share the divine secret freely. It is now my aim to bestow, but the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. I recited slowly. Jeanne placed the red cloak over my shoulders. The cool black silk lining the inside of the garment caressed my warm bare skin and electrified my senses. An exquisite sensation rose from below my navel to the top of my head. Held in a halo of infinite love, I felt protected and safe. Invincible under the shield of a magical cloak, I felt complete, whole again. My soul recognized the familiar energies that were overtaking me with an intense pleasure. Tenderly, Jeanne pulled the hood over my head. Holding hands, we stood, smiling at each other in a victorious stance. Shiloh, she said proudly, all is well, here and in the heavens. Yes, Jeanne, all is well.